Almost from, October the 8th, Biden was always telling the Israelis, don't retaliate too much, don't escalate, don't escalate. I wonder if he'd be saying that if America was attacked like that.
Yeah.
And so here is the problem. The problem is we have this appeasement. The more room that we give, the more they take, and it is very difficult to gain back that territory. But even the territory in the minds of people.
Well, hey, welcome to What Was That About? Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. My name is Moses Khan. I'm here with Dr. Tony Soldano, who's the lead pastor here at All People's Church. How you doing, Pastor?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing well.
It is freezing outside.
It is cold in Canada.
We are in the vortex.
We are.
This is like unheard of. I mean, Canada's cold, but this is like Arctic cold.
It's really bad. Yeah.
So I don't know if there's like a global warming button that somebody just shuts off or something, but
every now and then
turn it back
on.
That's all we're gonna say.
That's all we're gonna say. Hey, we are in kind of the middle of what seems to be a ceasefire undecision between Israel and Hamas. At the time of this recording, there's been 3 hostages released.
Right.
And I think 90 or some, maybe over that, the prisoners back to Hamas.
Back to Gaza. Yeah.
Back to Gaza, yeah.
But probably back to Hamas.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
And so this is interesting.
So let's be clear.
Yeah.
So what's being traded is hostages, innocent people, everyday people, for terrorists and murderers.
For prisoners.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. And so there's kind of seems to be still this like tension. I don't think there's trust on either side here. And I mean, just I don't know if you saw the videos. I saw some videos of just the militant group that was there. Even as it came to releasing these 3 hostages after so long. And so
women, by the way.
Yeah, women. Yeah, that's right. And so there still seems to be, a level of confusion and over this whole situation as to, hey, what's happening and why is it taking so long and where are the rest of the hostages and why don't we have answers on these things? Yeah.
Well, listen, it is a horrible situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's interesting, we need to call this out because a lot of the Western world, whether it's their media, by the way, a lot of media coverage did not cover that, cover, these Hamas fighters who, by the way, are supposed to be eradicated. They're in their military garb and guns. And by the way, that's not the way they fight on the field, right? On the field, they're not going to fight you man to man. They're going to hide. They're going to look like civilians, hospitals, schools, whatever. But when it comes to 3 women being released, all the tough guys come out with all their it is chaotic, by the way. It is chaotic, unruly. I mean, even when you just compare the release of the terrorists for the release of innocent people, that in itself ought to tell you the spirit that's behind both groups. By the way, the word Hamas literally means violence.
Wow.
So that ought to tell you something right there. But Pastor Mo, let's not forget, after they started the war, Hamas started the war on October 7th, they've been calling for a ceasefire from October the 8th.
Yeah.
While Israel is fighting, on 7 different fronts, as all the proxies have come out to destroy Israel and have failed badly, by the way.
Yeah.
But this is an absolute atrocity that they have robbed babies, women, elderly, the children. Probably the majority are dead now. There are some living. Are they in Gaza? Are they not in Gaza?
Yeah.
It is absolutely despicable. And that here again, the legacy media will not call them out and show, a lot of them will not show these images, right? And it's absolutely pathetic. And here's another thing. It's interesting how Hamas can, declare genocide and victory at the same time. Like, they didn't look like they were starving. They didn't look like, and I'm not suggesting there hasn't been suffering. And by the way, we understand that there are Christians that live in Gaza.
Yeah, absolutely.
That are, by the way, they are the worst of society, right? So you're not Arab, you're not militant, you're a
Yeah.
believer in Jesus. They have a very, very difficult time there. And our hearts go out for those people.
Absolutely.
But how you can declare genocide and victory at the same time, it is just a constant barrage of lies, and the West just eats it up.
Yeah, it is so true. And what's, it's so painful to even see how much, Israel has to work at trying to get just 3 hostages. And I mean, what a painful time for the families to kind of at least, hear of this ceasefire semi-agreement. And now they're probably wondering, well, when is my family member going to be released? And where is my family member? Are they still alive? And so
Horrible.
The holding of that that information and to use it to free terrorists and criminals is just evil and wicked. And of course, that's always been their heart. That's always been the spirit in which they occupy. It is a violent and evil spirit that wants more and more territory and wants more and more takeover. And so that's what we're seeing. And it's too bad that on this side of planet Earth in the West here, we are just so blind to that reality.
Yeah. And Pastor Moses, the leader, whoever the leader is now of Hamas there, I don't know his name, but he was just on recently and talked about October the 7th as a great day of pride.
Wow.
And that it would speak to generations.
Wow.
And that they're here to do it over and over again. So here's what, you celebrate not only a war, but on that day, attacking people, raping people, murdering children. Like, these are just innocent people. You're not even attacking military posts. That's your pride.
Wow.
That's the thing. And what is absolutely disgusting and disgraceful to me is what has happened in the West, particularly in universities, where we have seen, the anti-Semites that have come out, and not only just the students, but presidents and leaders. Like honestly, I think I saw, I saw a headline in the National Post here, which is a newspaper in Canada, and talked about how our universities are rotten to the core. That was the headline, and I believe it's absolutely correct. Yeah. They are rotten. They don't know right from wrong. They don't know up from down. Yeah. And in the West, rather than despising the atrocities that occurred, they celebrate it.
Yeah.
They protest. They put up encampments. Yep. They are violent. They're aggressive, and so. Maybe not to the extent that we've seen there in Israel, but if that's their spirit, what has happened there can happen anywhere.
Anywhere. And we've seen even certain nations that have given too much leeway, to these groups, and neighborhoods and cities have suffered because of this. And so I think what's really sad when you speak of universities and colleges is that these people are going to grow up now, this next generation, believing in the wrong narrative. Having put their hope in the wrong narrative, and of course we know that God is one day going to make all things right and bring justice. But how sad it is that these people are being indoctrinated in their schools, and a lot of it having to do with fear to not conform, or fear of conforming to what the groups around them believe, and there's all sorts of things happening, even for celebrities, that they're being forced to bow the knee.
Right.
Otherwise, they're gonna suffer, and the rest of it. And so it's just a sad, forceful push towards a particular narrative that I think is so sad for the next generation.
I think it's powerful what you say there. And in the West, we have this. I've been to Israel. I've been to the parts that are Jewish. I've been to the parts that are Arab, and on a diplomatic, not just a just a visit, if you will. It wasn't a tourism trip there. But here's what the West doesn't understand. They just think that, hey, if we just educate people, they're going to leave their ideology of hate and murder. And these are deep-rooted beliefs that go back to, quote unquote, biblical times. They go back to their, holy passages, if you will. Yeah. And you are not going to uproot this ideology from their thinking. The only time that this is actually going to happen is when the Antichrist comes, and he talks about peace. Somehow there will be a little bit of a time frame where he will somehow be able to bring them together. But then the Bible says that when they say peace, then sudden destruction will come because it's based on a false narrative. It's based on fraud. But what is absolutely perplexing to me is that people either cannot see it for what it is, or they won't call it out for what it is, or maybe they're just afraid. In the West, we have this appease, almost from, and thank God he's been thrown out of the White House, almost from, October the 8th, Biden was always telling the Israelis, don't retaliate too much, don't escalate, don't escalate. I wonder if he'd be saying that if America was attacked like that.
Yeah.
And so here is the problem. The problem is we have this appeasement. The more room that we give, the more they take, and it is very difficult to gain back that territory. But even the territory in the minds of people, and they start the indoctrination at a very, very
young
early
age.
This thing is you see the videos, like children with guns and they're taught songs of hatred and wickedness and evil because they are raised from the earliest age to love death.
Yeah.
Right? The Israelis are taught to love life. And we know that in Proverbs 8, what does the Bible say? They that, love death hate me. That's what God says.
Wow.
And so there you go. That ought to tell you about the narrative and the God they serve.
Yeah.
So
true. So do you see this, just as we wrap up here, like we obviously know biblical prophecy. Right now it seems to be, with Trump coming in power, and maybe there's a shift happening here even in Canada. This grace period, do you think this ceasefire is going to last? Is it going to resolve in something for maybe a moment? Where do you see this going?
Well, here's the dilemma. The dilemma is that the only card that Hamas holds is these hostages. So for them to release all the hostages, then what would they have left, knowing that, the Israelis are on a warpath to wipe you out? And so, I believe this ceasefire and the delay, if you really wanted a compromise of some kind, I think this two-state solution is nonsense, but any kind of compromise, then you would bring the hostages forward. And by the way, if you bring the hostages forward and you surrender your arms, the war's over. But they don't want the war to be over. Right. And so they need those hostages as leverage, but they also need to continue the propaganda so that aid continues to flow. Because, by the way, isn't it amazing, for all the money that flows into Gaza, they don't have an economy of their own. Like, why don't you have an economy of your own?
Yeah.
The Israelis have an economy, and they've built it really, really well and strong, right?
Yep.
And so this constant aid that obviously goes into building terror tunnels and weapons and all the rest of it. And so I think it's all, stall tactics so that they can regroup. But are they going to release all those hostages, even if they're dead? Because, we have talked about this, how, the Israelis, going all the way back to biblical times, even the body. I told you they just recovered the body of a soldier that they had in Gaza for 10 years.
Wow.
10 years, and the Israelis just brought him back. So dead or alive, they want their people.
Yeah.
And Hamas knows how to exploit this, And we don't even know that the hostages are in Gaza.
That's right. Yeah, we don't know where they are.
We have no idea. Are they there? Are they shipped back in? And may the Lord have mercy on those poor souls. Like, we need to pray that they are released.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
But we trust that in the end, God will have the final say, whether in this life or in eternity.
Yeah, 100%. So we continue to pray. Hey, listen, thank you for joining us for this episode. It's a heavy one, but these are the realities of the world that we live in. Continue to pray that God would show peace to Jerusalem and Israel, and ultimately we know that God's going to have the final say. Hey, let us know in the comment section what you think about this episode. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff. We appreciate your support. Thank you for this conversation, Pastor.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. We'll see you next time.